if you've ever said, I don't know why I reacted like that. This episode might explain your entire dating life. Welcome to the Connection Catalyst podcast, episode number 26. I'm Karolina, the Connection Catalyst, and today I will talk about nervous system and polyvagal theory. Why is it so important to know about it? It's because it's all backed up by science and how you react to certain circumstances in your love life, in your business, in your whatever else dictates how you're going to respond inside of your body, how healthy you're going to be, how much stress is going to be accumulated versus released from your body. So it's very important to know how our nervous system works, because if we know how to regulate ourselves and how to work with our nervous system rather than against it, we can live a more fulfilling, peaceful, and harmonious life. So, what does science tell us about our nervous system? Well, for sure that the nervous system constantly scans for safety and danger, right? So we're in a way on alert based also on our childhood. So our brain is constantly asking questions like, am I safe? Am I connected? Am I threatened? Do I need to protect myself? And most of this automatically happens in our subconscious mind, which governs 95% of our life. So when people say something like, oh, I don't know why I reacted like that, it's because their nervous system, their automatic program reacted before their conscious thought or before what they consciously chose to express or do. And so I want to also relate this to relationships, because most relationship conflicts are not actually caused by two people trying to hurt each other and really do the worst for each other, but they are caused because of their nervous systems try to protect themselves, and then they project the coping mechanisms onto each other, and the childhood triggers onto each other as well. And then it's a recipe for complete disaster in a relationship. So when people feel threatened in a relationship, connection becomes harder. Why? Because then the brain tries to detect if there is a threat. So when the brain detects it, the empathy can decrease. The curiosity about the other person can also decrease. The listening ability and presence decreases, and also the defensiveness can increase, right? Because if we feel like, oh my God, now this person is attacking me or something is wrong and so on, then we become defensive. And then it's so much harder for a person to tell us something, especially if this is a challenging feedback to take in. And then it's a recipe for conflict in a relationship. And of course, conflict can be resolved in a way which causes more intimacy rather than more disconnect. As I mentioned in the previous podcast episode before, you can go and watch it to see how I treat conflicts and how I, mm, in a way, use conflicts for the catapult of my intimacy in my relationship. But still, a regulated nervous system is way better at communication, at emotional regulation and emotional mastery, at conflict repair, at building deeper intimacy, as I mentioned, and also building deeper trust between people. And this is supported by extensive research on stress psychology. The body reacts faster than our conscious thought. So the emotional centers in our brain can activate before the rational parts of our brain are fully activated and can process what's happening. And the HeartMath Institute is big on this research, where they discovered that the heart has an intelligence that actually can detect what's going to happen faster than a brain. I'm going to probably talk about heartbreak coherence in the further episode as well, because it's a big topic that can be addressed separately. But this idea explains why someone, for example, raises their voice, or your body contracts or tightens somewhere, or maybe your heart rate can increase, or maybe, yeah, you just become defensive in conflict, right? Because the body reacts before you actually consciously decided to respond. So, in a way, you can say that your body is often having a conversation before your mind has even processed that it has started. And there are three essentials reaction that we need to know about when we talk about nervous system regulation slash dysregulation, which is fight, flight, and freeze. So fight is very self-explanatory, right? So when the body feels like I need to confront threat, then the fight response happens. For example, when we are criticized, when someone yells at us, when we are attacked, when we are blamed for something, when anything is projected onto us on an emotional level, or when we face some controlling behavior from our partner or family member or whoever else, or when we need to prove our point and prove we are right, then we feel like, okay, we need to fight. And then we feel like, if I gain control, I will be safe. That's a fight response. Then we have flight, which is, oh, I'm just gonna bail, right? The body is preparing to escape. So in relationships, it can be like avoiding conversations, distracting yourself from whatever emotions you're feeling, or you can even go into workaholism, right? Getting shit done rather than resolving what's actually stressing you, or just staying busy with whatever else. Or maybe you can change the subject suddenly when someone is talking to you and you suddenly talk about something else, right? There are different mechanisms, but pretty much like you can just leave the relationship emotionally, even if physically you are still present there. And so the flight response tell us, if I get away, if I escape, I'll be safe. And then we have a freeze response, right? So when our body shuts down completely, any kind of action, any kind of movement is just blank. Or some people on the sessions when I work with a freeze response describe it as also numbness. So in a relationship, it can be feeling numb in your body, going completely blank in your mind, or maybe disassociating from your body when your consciousness is literally not inside of your body, but like is out of it. You're not feeling anything, or feeling stuck in your body. Or, as I said, just not knowing what to say because you're frozen. So you're just like, out of it, right? So any kind of like numbness emotionally or even mentally could be the freeze response. And here in the freeze, the message that our body gets is like, nothing is working and I don't know what to do. It's just like, oh my God, you know? Now, I associate personally the freeze response also with the shock. So, for example, I have had a situation in my life years ago when my friend was suffocating a bit because he swallowed something not in the right way. And then I completely freezed. I didn't know what to do. Unfortunately, another friend, pulled his whatever ribs in and, pushed his stomach in a way where he was able to cough it out. But I was in such a freeze response that I wasn't able to do anything at all. I was just like in shock, in kind of, yeah, just freeze so much that I didn't even move. I didn't even do anything. My whole body was just like stuck in one place. So this is a freeze response when you're just like stopped in a way, where you stopped with your reactions, stopped with your emotions, stopped with everything inside. And there is another reaction that maybe it's more commonly discussed nowadays, which is called fawn. And this boils down to people pleasing, abandoning your own needs, over accommodating towards someone else's needs, or avoiding conflicts in relationships. So in this reaction, it's like, if I keep everyone happy, I will be safe. And I talked about people pleasing and codependency before. So if you don't know what it is or you want to know more about it, you can check out previous episode of my podcast. We can't talk about nervous system without talking about polyvagal theory by Stephen Porges. I hope that this is how you say his name. So the theory proposes that the autonomic nervous system can be divided in different states that are related to connection, to mobilization, and to shutdown. So first we have the ventral vagal state that is all about connection. So this indicates feeling safe, feeling connected, feeling playful, feeling curious, feeling engaged socially. And then in a relationship, it looks like healthy communication, deep empathy, deep intimacy, maybe emotional maturity and availability. And then we have the sympathetic states, for example, fight or flight. So now we go to the sympathetic nervous system state, which is fight or flight. And then this state is characterized by anxiety, stress, urgency, activation, and everything that makes it like, oh my God, right? And then in relationships, it can look like arguments, criticism, defensiveness, as I mentioned before, or chasing, or even withdrawing if you do flight, right? And then we have the dorsal vagal state, that is freeze or shut down. So this is characterized, as I mentioned, by numbness, disconnection, helplessness, maybe even collapse. And in relationships, it can show up like, for example, stonewalling, which is a manipulation tactic, or emotional withdrawal as well, or loss of desire and sexual chemistry, or feeling like you're dead inside, or just disengagement in your relationship. So, for relationships, the biggest thing that we need to understand about the nervous system is, rather than thinking that my partner is the problem, we can think of it as, my nervous system perceives my partner and what they do as a threat. So my nervous system entered a survival state right now. And my partner's nervous system also is in a survival state. Maybe that is different than mine, but it's still survival state. So now, rather than you have two people reacting to each other and responding to each other, you have two nervous system responses reacting to each other, even automatically. For instance, something happens and one partner becomes anxious and just pursues the other person, while the other becomes overwhelmed with the anxiety and withdraws. And this is classic for anxious and avoidant attachment style. I made a podcast episode, or many, before about attachment styles as well. So if you don't know what it is yet, go and check it out. But the anxiously attached person would be chasing, 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 and then the avoidantly attached person would be just withdrawing, withdrawing. And then the more this one withdraws, the more this one chases. So then it's a recipe for disaster, right? So, yeah, most couples actually think they are fighting each other, where in reality, they are fighting each other's coping mechanisms, in a way, survival responses. So, there is a big connection between attachment styles and the nervous system because, like, attachment styles are not just beliefs, they are actually also nervous system responses and patterns to specific stimuli. So with the anxious attachment style, the common nervous system thing is where they are hypervigilant and can be controlling out of anxiety, scanning for rejection, scared of abandonment, and so on. And then their nervous system is constantly asking like, oh, am I safe with you? Are you still with me? Are you gonna leave me? And things like that. Whereas with the avoidant attachment style, we have the common nervous system experience like overwhelm with too much intimacy, too much emotional intensity, and so on. And then the need for distance, for their own space, or the need for self reliance. And then the questions that they might ask is like, can I still be free and safe with you? Like, can I be independent and do my own thing? And then we have secure attachment when the nervous system is just freaking chill. And it's not like the absence of triggers, but it's like the ability to recover faster after the triggers and greater emotional like intelligence, flexibility, maturity, and also like better conflict repair skills. So the safely, securely attached person would feel safe in connection and without connection. So this is actually like the most relaxed nervous system response when it comes to attachment styles. And here I want to mention one really important thing because a lot of people think in a way like, I want to stop being triggered. I want to stop reacting like this. But I don't think you ever will, really. Of course, you can decrease the frequency of how you're triggered. The more you heal, the more you release emotions and so on. But you just need to learn how to handle your triggers better, because chances are you are going to get triggered, even maybe until the end of your days. But if you know how to regulate and recover quickly, then it's not really an issue anymore. So, in a way, the difference is to be able to return to closeness and connection faster. And there is one more important thing that I want to mention about this concept of nervous system regulation. Yesterday, I had dinner with friends and I was talking about how I had a little scooter accident a few days ago, how my scooter just went up on one wheel while my bestie was on the back of it and I was driving. And even though nothing really happened, I just have a bruise and scratch on my knee, I got so triggered with fear because I really felt like something might happen to my bestie on the back and I was responsible for it. And I was in the driver's seat and, like my whole nervous system reacted. So I got off the scooter and went all pale and I almost fainted. And then I laid down on the road and just my whole body started shaking. And the girl asked me at the dinner, like, what did you do to regulate your nervous system? And I don't believe in such an idea that when we are anxious, the nervous system regulation is to take a few deep breaths every time. Because if we have space and time to go and get anxious even more, when someone can hold us or when we can hold ourselves and release the anxiety from our body, then the nervous system will downregulate itself anyway. So, of course, if we are in a situation where we need to perform, for example, and we are full of anxiety, taking a few deep breaths, for instance, to downregulate your nervous system is great. But I believe that when you have such a response from your nervous system, for example, with fear or anxiety, how I like to do it is to go into this fear, go into this anxiety. And I was laying there, allowing the fear to take me over, allowing my whole body to shake and to just release this fear from my body. Because when I allow it and the emotion is out of my body, then it's a natural process of the nervous system to regulate, because I'm not agitated anymore. I'm not anxious anymore because the whole energy of anxiety is out when I just let myself feel it and release it. Maybe cry it out, maybe shake it out, maybe shout it out, whatever it is. So the research says that what regulates the nervous system is walking, dancing, shaking, exercising, of course, just stretching, yoga, and so on, breathing, as I mentioned before, when we take slow, deep breaths, and when, especially the exhale, is longer than our inhale, then we just slow it down. And then we can do also diaphragm breathing, and then this regulates our nervous system down. If we are actually very apathetic and depressed, we might regulate it up. So, in a way, we then need to take fast breaths. For example, from yoga, the breath of fire, like, because then we are kind of like too much down, we are too apathetic, we have too little energy. So then we might regulate our nervous system in a way where we pump ourselves up with the fast breathing. And of course, the most important thing, especially in the aspect of relationships, is connection, especially safe connection that helps us regulate our nervous system. Whatever it is, whether it's a hug, whether it's eye contact, supportive touch, emotional attunement to your needs and desires, feeling understood, seen, and heard, then our nervous system just calms down. So remember, when you have a fight with your partner, before asking who is right, you can ask who feels unsafe right now. Because this is a real question that we need to ask. So thank you so much for being here with me. Send this episode to someone who maybe needs to hear it. If you want to know more about me, you can go to my website, karolinakuraj.com, Karolina with K, Kuraj.com. Or if you want to contact me, you can write an email at connection, theconnectioncatalyst@gmail.com. Thank you so much for being here with me. Don't forget to comment, share, or subscribe if you like my vibe. Until the next time.